What's the latest on COVID-19 is the control efforts that Nigeria has made so far. That's what we want to have a little discussion on right now. We have the Director General, Nigeria's Center for Disease Control, NCDC. He joins us via Skype. That's Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. First of all, clear the air. It would seem that many people are making a huge issue out of the difference within self-isolation and self-quarantine. Please educate us. Which one is it?
So good morning. Good morning, Nigerians. I am on self-isolation. This is a procedural thing. I was part of a high-level delegation by the World Health Organization. There were 12 global health leaders across the world. I was the only African, only Nigerian. It was a huge privilege to be part of this team. We went to China, went to several cities to understand the response. That report that we produced has influenced the response of the rest of the world. We were congratulated for our efforts by the DG. We fed this back to the world community. I've been back for 9 days now. I have 5 more days. I got back to Nigeria on the 24th. I've been doing my work from home just in respect to the regulations that we made, because we put out the guidelines that we should stay at home for 14 days. So it's a big difference. Quarantine is when you're enforced, you are kept in a place, and it is enforced by military or police in order to protect the population. It's not our policy here for anyone. So meanwhile, I've had a series of tests just to assure everyone I'm fine, doing well. I'm surprised about the media spin to this. I think we should focus on the problem that we have at hand, which we are working very hard with my team across the country to deal with every day. So thank you very much for the concern, Nigerians, but we have a problem to deal with, and I'm completely focused on supporting Nigeria through dealing with that particular this issue. So I call on all of you to support that work.
Okay, well, that's gratifying to hear. But educate us then, what are some of the findings that you made, on your trip to China, and how has that affected our own control measures of the COVID-19 in Nigeria?
Yeah, so that's a critical question. I fed back to the Honorable Minister of Health and the team here as soon as I got back. And the biggest finding from our trip in China is that to respond to this outbreak the way China has done really takes the whole society to be involved. China has mobilized the entire country to stand behind the China Center for Disease Control, to stand behind the ministry, to focus on doing what they need to do, because they know that they need to get that country moving again for everybody's best interest. They know that the economy depends on this new virus. There has never been a time in history where one of the largest economies in the world, the future of that economy depends on a single small virus. So suddenly, people working in China, CDC, have become the most important people in China. Incredible. So what I saw was the mobilization of a country, from drivers to hoteliers, everybody focused on doing the right thing, enforcing what we call social distancing. So people staying at home when necessary, washing their hands, doing the right thing, doing whatever government has said you need to do in order to stop transmission. And you can see the results. From thousands of cases today, we are down to a few hundreds from one district in province in China. And to be honest, the biggest risk to the world, the biggest risk to Nigeria, it's not China anymore. There's widespread transmission in many other countries. So, and that's the reason why we need to know these things. There's no magic bullet. Even the big temperature scanners at the airport, none of them will keep us safe completely. What we need are experts that understand this disease and can continuously interpret what is going on, do a risk analysis, and support the team, the scientists, the microbiologists, the virologists doing this work, and support the minister, our political leadership, with the advice that they need to work. So we are part of a global community. So the DG of NCDC going as part of a mission is part of the response, and is part of what keeps us safe in Nigeria.
When you mentioned the mobilization level in China, I mean, what would want to ask you, coming down to Nigeria here, what would you say is the mobilization level from the citizens to the health workers to basically all the stakeholders? How would you rate the mobilization level in Nigeria?
So we're working extremely hard. You will see that the minister, the Honorable Minister for Health, is doing press conferences every other day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're sending messages through all our means. The Honorable Commissioner in Lagos State is on the news almost every day. The Governor of Lagos State, all of us are saying the same thing. But you know, very often in our society, there's a general skepticism of government. But I think that at times the country has to come together. And we did this during Ebola. We do this during football matches. I think at times like this, the politicization of a health event is in nobody's best interest. We spend so much time. We've spent so much time over the past week, debunking fake rumors, responding to all sorts of frivolous allegations, and they detract us from the hard work that we're doing. So, this is the question you've thrown to me is really not a question for me. It's a question for Nigerians. Do we want a society where we can all work collectively to a goal that will ensure our collective safety, our collective health? Or does everyone want to be an expert sending around WhatsApp messages on how to save the world? Unfortunately, things don't work that way. We have to trust the collective sometimes. We have to trust at least this government institution and the teams around us that are working so hard. It's very disheartening for them to see a WhatsApp message of one cure or one, whatever measure. And you think, what are we doing here? The world doesn't work like that. Cures are no longer found in my mother's village pot somewhere in the village. It's found through science. And science is not done individually. It's a collective effort. So really, how can we Nigerians, despite our differences, despite our beliefs, come together around an issue when there's one that requires a collective action and a national vision to respond to?
Just to reiterate to Nigerians, if the message or information didn't come from the Ministry of Health, the NCDC, or the State Ministry of Health, then you should disregard. But I'd also like to find out about the state of Nigerians in China, because that has been, a major topic of discussion. What did you find out? Did you interface with them? What were their concerns? Basically, how were they doing?
So to be honest, I didn't have the opportunity to meet with them. This was a very high-level delegation. We're meeting with leaders of the government, the Minister of Health in China, the Ministers of Health in the various provinces, the China CDC. We visited a few hospitals. So it was a global effort. It wasn't really an effort from a Nigerian point of view. But we have engaged, the Honorable Minister has engaged with the Nigerian ambassador in China for all indications at the time. Students were well taken care of. Listen, the city of Wuhan, where this epicenter of this outbreak was, everybody had food deliveries from government sent to their homes, either food materials or cooked food. This is a city the size of Lagos. It's incredible. If you imagine Lagos on an election day, that is how Wuhan was for 1 month. And the people, the society, the government had found a way to make sure everybody had food to eat, everyone had medicines. So despite the challenges, they had found a way to keep everyone going. And right now, slowly, they're bringing their country back to life. Businesses are starting up again, slowly, in a graduated way. And that's a strategy that we need to learn, because we are going to work very hard in Nigeria. And we really are 24/7 working to prevent this virus from taking a foothold here. But at the same time, we always have a plan B. And so if there is circulation in Nigeria, we need to know that we have a strategy in place to respond.
You may have heard about the resolution at the House of Representatives to suspend plenary for 2 weeks to enable the management of the National Assembly put measures in place against the spread of Covid-19 in the country. That has been a major source of conversation in the country. But I'd like to get your response, or at least your take to that particular resolution. What do you think about it?
I have a lot of respect for the honorable members of the House of Representatives. They represent Nigerians. They express the anxieties of Nigerians across the country. But I think the time now hasn't come. If they respond in a way like that by suspending sessions, everyone else will ask, should I close my business? Should I close my office? Should I close my school? And it's disproportionate at this time. I think what the honorable members should do is really support the work the technical folk are doing, the experts are doing. Give us your full support. Budget for us in a sustainable way so that we can develop the expertise. Ask us for advice so we can advise you on what to do. I think if I were to be asked, it's too early to carry out a measure like that. They need to express by their actions and their words confidence in the government institutions that they have set up, that their mandate is to fund. And let us do our work and advise Nigerians on what to do. That's what we're here for. So I understand that they're expressing the anxieties of Nigerians. My candid advice to them is to please support the work that we're doing, both in the short term and in the long term, so that we can be in a position to advise government at any point on what to do and give them the best advice to protect Nigeria.
Well, it's not only COVID-19 that we're dealing with, obviously. There's Lassa fever on one end, and of course, Nigeria has been praised by a number of countries, including Germany, about our level of preparedness for this COVID-19. Tell us about Nigeria's infectious disease preparedness policy, very briefly.
So, like I've said severally, the preparedness, you never prepare for war when the war has started. The preparedness is in building institutions. We set up a national reference lab and a network of reference labs a few years ago. It is those labs that we set up quietly that is now supporting the COVID response in Nigeria. So that any sample that gets to the lab for COVID-19 in 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, any of these 5 labs can produce that result. You know, with $1 million, I couldn't have done this during this period. This was done because we invested in it 2-3 years ago. So it is the investment in institutions. Scientists are not trained overnight. They are trained by investing in the long term. Risk communication is a whole new area of work in public health. You build up the expertise slowly. So at the heart of my point is let's keep this going. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So the investments in our health security have to be at par with what we do for other parts of security in our country. And you can only do this by building up expertise. It's like sending out a guy without any training with a rifle to go to war. Of course, he can't survive irrespective of the power of that rifle. What you need to do is train him, equip him, let him understand the modes of work. And that's what we've been doing at the Nigeria Center for Disease Control over the past 4 years, building up the expertise. And now it is called on to support this outbreak. I am confident in the ability of my team to advise Nigerians adequately on what to do. And that's what we've been doing 24/7 since this incident started.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu, the Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Thank you so much for your time. Well.